Okay, today we're going to talk about writing linear equations given the slope and a point. So remember that when we write a linear equation, we're still using our slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. And so m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. So these are the two things that we need to identify. Once we have those, we can write our equation. So we've done some of these like basic ones before. So if I ask you to write an equation given the slope and the y-intercept, if I tell you the slope is 3 over 2, then that means that my m is 3 over 2 and my y-intercept is 7, so that means that my b is 7. So when I write my equation, I'm just kind of filling in those blanks. I'm just filling in what m and b are. So it would be y equals 3 over 2x plus 7. And that would be my equation. Even if I have something over here in number 2 that says the slope is 4, that's still my m, and it goes through the point 0, -1, well, think about where 0, -1 is. If I were to graph that point 0, -1, that would be right down here. That would be 0, -1, which means that my b is -1. So I can write that equation again, same way, filling in my blanks. My m is 4 and my b is -1. Now those are pretty basic. Those are pretty straightforward. So let's do some that are a little bit tougher, because why not? So this one, write an equation given the slope and a point. And so this isn't as straightforward. 2, -3 isn't on our y-axis, so that's not going to be my b. But I know that my slope is 5. And then I have a point. And so remember that my point represents my x and my y. So I can plug in everything I know into that formula, y equals mx plus b. And then I can solve for b. So I know that my m is 5, so I can plug in 5 for m. I know that my x value is 2, so I can plug in 2 for x. And I know that my y value is -3, so I can plug in -3 for y. And then I can go through and I can solve for b. So if I take a second and plug those in, my y is -3, my m is 5 times my x, which is 2, and then I don't know what b is, so I'm going to have plus b. I can solve this equation. So multiply first. 5 times 2 is 10 plus b, and it still equals a -3. Now it's a one-step equation. So to solve for b, I would move 10 to the other side. So I would subtract 10. And so my b equals -3 minus 10 is -13. So now that I have those two things, now that I have my m and my b, I can write my equation in that form, y equals mx plus b. And again, we're just plugging in our m and b. We use that point to help us find b, but then we don't use it anymore. So it would be y equals my m, which is 5x, and my b, which is a -13. So let's try another one. So this next one, slope is 1/2 and goes through the point -4, 8. Okay, sorry. So my slope is 1/2. So that's my m. And then I'm going to use that point, my x and my y, to find my b. So I'm going to write out my equation. I think it's easiest to label everything first and then plug in what you know. So you know that your m is 1/2. So you're going to plug that in there. You know that your y is 8. And you know that your x is -4. Whoops, I already used that color, -4. And so then we're going to plug in everything that we can and solve for b. So my y is 8 equals my m, which is 1/2, times my x, which is -4, plus b. So 1/2 times -4 is a -2, plus b equals 8. And then solve for b. So get b by itself. It's a one-step equation. So the opposite of a -2 is a +2. So my b equals 10. So once I have those two things, I can write my equation, plugging in what I know for m and b. So it would be y equals my m, which is 1/2 x, plus my b, which is 10. Okay, next one. If you want to try and pause it and solve this one on your own, that would be great. Our slope is 3/4. And then I've got the point 12, -2, so that's my xy. And so we're going to plug in everything that we know. So we know that our m is 3/4. We know that our x is 12. And we know that our y is -2. So I'm going to plug that in. So -2 equals my m, which is 3/4, times my x, which is 12, plus b. Always multiply these first. So 3/4 times 12 would be 9, plus b equals -2. And then move your number to the other side to solve for b. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. So b equals -2 minus 9 is a -11. So now I can write my equation in that form, y equals mx plus b. So y equals my m, which is 3/4, plus my b, which is a -11. All right, last two. So slope is 0 and goes through the point 7, 0. So you have your m is 0, and then we have our x and our y. So when we plug in what we know, this time I'm not going to highlight anything. My y is 0, and then equals my slope is 0, times my x, which is 7, plus b. And so this one, 0 times 7 is just 0, plus b equals 0. And so my b value, because if I subtract 0, that's not going to change anything. My b is 0. So this one, there's two ways you can write this equation. You can write it as y equals 0x plus 0, or you can just write it as y equals 0. Your b isn't always 0 when your slope is 0. And the last one, when your slope is undefined and goes through the point 2, 3. So when our slope is undefined, this one's a little bit harder for us to plug in. Remember that an undefined slope is a vertical line. And so remember, it starts off with x equals. And then it's whatever our x value is of our point. So this one, x equals, and so my x value on this one is 2. So it would be x equals 2. If I gave you another one, if I said number 7 and I said slope is undefined and goes through the point 7, 8, it would still start off with x equals, and it would be whatever x equals. So it would be x equals 7.